going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about. We want peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela. As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave if we needed to do so. We actually assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not. The first wave, if you'd like to call it that, the first attack was so successful, we probably don't have to do a second, but we're prepared to do a second wave, a much bigger wave, actually. We are
Shalom, Yeshua Allah. First and foremost, I would like to give all glory, honor, and infinite praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Chachdash. Double honors to beloved elders and the apostles at Great Millstone that taught me this truth. Peace and salutations to all you hopeful elect Akim out there laboring that are pushing this word in truth and in sincerity. This is your brother Amar from the GMS Boise, Idaho camp. And I'm just doing this lesson, based on the update of the series of events that have happened, in the world news, which is talking about Babylon, known as the United States. Babylon the Great, more specifically known as the United States, attacked Venezuela, which was just, another Northern Kingdom run country in South America. But the difference between them is that the amount of oil reserves, as we know, is the highest in the world, because that's been a major topic of discussion on the world news. So we understand that this man, Esau, Edom, only comes in, obviously, the thief cometh not, but to steal, kill, and destroy. So that's going to be my first scripture for today. This is John 10:10. The thief cometh not, but for to steal, and to kill, and to destroy. I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. First and foremost, we understand that this world is not our world, and everything that we have had in the past as a nation unified in like the tribes as Israel has been taken from us, and we are in captivity to this very day. And we are just still subject to this curses, because we know Esau, Edom is the bully on the block. He's not going to pick on a country his own size like Russia, China, Iran. He's going to go after somebody small. But what he's doing is still thinking that he can control the next phase of the world if he controls the petrodollar. Because historically, and what a lot of the rumor has been about what happened with the Venezuelan bombing, is that they said that they were going to start, the Venezuelan government was going to start trading the oil in the yuan, which is the Chinese currency. And also the BRICS nations forming their own set of trade currencies that they're going to already establish. And I've done lessons on it before, how they already are going to make sure that all of their trade agreements are going to be settled outside of the US dollar. So this is something that Babylon the Great had to do to secure the massive amount of resources to at least hold the largest oil reserves in the world, to make sure that, they still hold the majority of the shares, so-called, of the earth's riches in the sense of oil, because that's what is used to make a lot of the petroleum plastic products. That's what's used first and foremost for the fuel, for the war machine and all the different jets and tanks and etc. Aircraft carriers that need to, all these hundreds of thousands of gallons of fuel and diesel. So for the next major conflict, if you're going to have a major conflict worldwide, you have to understand that you have to have the resources to keep that war machine fed. That's part of the reason why Adolf, the Austrian painter with a little funny mustache during World War II, invaded Poland first, because they actually had a good footstep next to Russia eventually, because he knew that he needed to secure oil fields. That's also why he went into Africa. It's because he had to keep his war machine fed. So continuing, we see the same pattern today with Esau, Edom. Before a major conflict worldwide is going to take place, you have to secure your fuel that's going to keep the war machine going. So the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua has created this man Esau, Edom, to be the perfect man for the job, because his blessing is the sword. We can go to Genesis, talking about the blessings of Esau and Jacob, but also, as well as, he is the, how do you say, the blacksmith that Yahweh Bashem Yahushua created to make these types of weapons. More specifically, these nuclear ICBM missiles, because it takes highly sophisticated machinery that has to be invented, created, and built by different scientists and physicists. So Esau Edom is been given that knowledge only because of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua has given him the resources so that he can ultimately make the nuclear missiles and bring destruction, and so prophecy can be fulfilled. But this is Isaiah 54:16. This is another scripture talking about Esau Edom's blessing that the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua has given him. Isaiah 54:16, behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy. The man that's making the weapons and the person that's going to do it, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua created. So let's go to the top. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire. And a blacksmith in the ancient world was known as, someone who was making horseshoes, swords, spears, helmets, shields, etc. So he had to use fire and melting metal. So he was like, I guess you could say, like the weapons maker back in the day. It was a very skilled art. If you've ever seen the process of how a Japanese katana is made, man, there's a lot of different processes. Continuing, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And that instrument for his work is ultimately talking about, the different technologies that goes into making sure a nuclear missile is functioning to where it can, one little atom getting split can take out a whole city, like we saw in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. If you've ever seen the movie Oppenheimer, I recommend it because it really shows you how the Oppenheimer scientist was really influenced, I guess you could say, by different visions and dreams and something that he just couldn't get off of his head, because Yahweh Bashem Yahushua was influencing him to make these awesome weapons, because they are awesome, because they ultimately are going to bring that judgment on Esau Edom himself, and at the same time salvation for the nation of Israel. So all this that's going on right now in the world is just another how do you say, leap forward towards world being unstable, in the sense of mass wars breaking out. So there's going to be chaos coming soon. So what are you going to do in these last days before all hell breaks loose? You should position yourself to have mercy when Yahweh Bashem Yahushai comes to smite the world with judgment. And ultimately you need to know who the enemy is, because most of our people are still to this day confused on who their enemy is. So we read these scriptures at camp, but I'm going to bring out a few scriptures in Ezekiel 35, and I'm just going to start at the first verse. And this is Ezekiel 35 in verse 1. Moreover, the word of the Lord Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir, and prophesy against it. Mount Seir is known as like the home base or the city the capital of Esau, Edom in the ancient world, which he took that land over and stole that land himself, and made it his main land. If you go to Petra and in Jordan, you can actually see the remnants of some of those relics of Esau, Edom. You see the big pillars, the same pillars that you see in front of the Lincoln Memorial in the White House, that you see on all his banks and every Capitol building. Even the Capitol building in my town, you can see the big stone pillars, the same ones Rome had. It's a very Esau, Edom signature architecture, and that's why it says Mount Seir, because, this is Esau, Edom, who is getting the blame for it. Verse 3, and say unto it, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, power, behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee, and I will stretch out mine hand against thee, and I will make thee most desolate. Ultimately, Yahushai is going to crack those clouds. Babylon the Great is going to be destroyed in less than an hour. Continuing, verse 4, I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord Yahweh. Because ultimately, Babylon the Great is a great power. They have a strong military, the different vast military bases across the world that Babylon the Great has. This would be a hard place to invade if you were a so-called man. But Yahushua is not going to meet this man, as a human, as a man, like he did before. Continuing, verse 5, because thou hast had a perpetual. Why is this going to happen? Why is this man going to get the worst judgment? Verse 5, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity. The Lord is not giving this man judgment because he ran the world wicked, which he is, because the world belongs to the Israelites, but because of how he treated the Israelites in the time of their captivity. Continuing, in the time that their iniquity had an end, and by being kicked out of the land, is us being thrown into a captive state. Because if you're not in your home land, you're obviously scattered abroad, separated in a captive type pilgrim, constantly moving one place to another type situation. And this is what Esau Edom has capitalized on, knowing that the children of Israel are exiled out of their land, and he threw us into captivity in the worst chattel slavery known to man. The Israelites suffered in all different time periods in the world, in the ancient world, during the Persians, during the Greeks, during the Romans, all the way through the Dark Ages ending, and Esau Edom coming into power as known as the Europeans. He had to create a whole continent to continue demonizing our people, and that's what we see, to this very day with the Northern Kingdom, Venezuelans getting attacked, and it's only going to increase to World War III. But you have to understand that this devil is only doing his part in prophecy to continue the march towards the kingdom. Because what I mean by that is, by him doing these atrocities, it just means that the kingdom is that much more closer. Look, he did that in the third day of 2026. So this year started out with a sprint. So Lord willing, it only increases from here, man. I was excited as hell when I saw that news on my phone when I woke up in the middle of the night around 2, 3, 4, 5 a.m. I can't remember. It was really early in the morning, But as soon as I saw it, man, call halal Yahweh Bashmi al-Shai, So don't be nervous and understand that this is just going to be continuing the increase of what 2026 is going to bring, in the sense of prophecy, taking place. So wars and rumors of wars are increasing. So Lord willing that this lesson was edifying unto the elect. Till next time, I would like to give all glory, honor, and infinite praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Chachodash, and double honors to beloved elders and the apostles at Great Millstone that taught me this truth. And peace and salutations to all you hopeful elect Akim out there laboring, that are pushing this word in truth and in sincerity. Till next time, Lord willing,